Hey everyone, this is Sandra with the Mortgage Center. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Thanks for joining me. Tonight's our regular live event, and I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what happened in real estate and mortgages in 2021. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about the forecast for the for the coming year. So thanks so much for joining me tonight. For those of you who have, so let's look back at 2020 and real estate. Okay, it's not what anyone expected, and when the pandemic sort of started and things were shutting down, there was a lot of worry about real estate. I mean, a lot of financial institutions were talking about deferring mortgage payments, and a lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't. The most unusual thing this year was that real estate set record highs, both in increases in home values. I mean, I've seen lots of numbers across Canada, but you were looking at 15% increases in real estate values year over year. And then through the pandemic, unexpectedly, mortgage rates went significantly down. So if you think about, if I think about where we were back sort of when the pandemic started, end of February, beginning of March, the mortgage prime rates were close to 4%, so like 3.95. Now the mortgage prime rate is at 2.45%. So again, most 5-year fixed rate mortgages, and it's a little fixed rate mortgages, I wanted to remind you, are not based off of the prime rate. They're based on the bond market, but still, we had 5-year fixed rates over 3%. Now they're under 2%. So let's have a closer look at that. So why did real estate values skyrocket? It's so simple. It's the law of supply and demand. So thanks again for those of you who are joining me. Shout out to you guys. So supply, well, demand. So let's talk a little bit about that. We've got this huge cohort of baby boomers. So I don't want to blame the baby boomers, but they were the folks who were born after the Second World War. And just, between 3 and 5 years after the Second World War, they had a lot of children. They may have only had a few, like 1 or 2 or 3 children, but because there are so many of them, all of their children right now, the Millennials, which is another huge cohort, are now looking to buy their first house, and some of them are actually even moving up. So you've got this large cohort of baby boomers who are, in their mid-60s. They're not ready to retire or sell their houses yet. And then you've got this huge cohort of millennials, or under the age of 39. Some of you might be watching us tonight, so I thought Facebook is just for old people. So a lot of millennials are now buying real estate. And so there's this pent-up demand, but there's not a lot of supply because the baby boomers are not selling their houses. So again, why are real estate values skyrocketing? Because of this law of supply and demand. The other thing to layer on top of that is, remember what I said about mortgage interest rates? So, pre-pandemic, we're looking at 3 or 3.5%. During the pandemic, we're looking at fixed and variable rate mortgages under 2%. So although home values are creeping up, the actual monthly carrying cost of the mortgage has stayed relatively flat because the rates have come down. And I don't think most people think about mortgage, buying a house. They don't think, oh gee, like in my market, which is Guelph, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, Fergus, Aurora, Rockwood, first-time home buyers are buying houses for about $600 to $650. So they don't say, I'm not hearing people say, oh gee whiz, I'm getting a $600,000 mortgage. They're like, well, what is that going to be costing me per month, right? So that's a little bit about what happened in 2020. Let's look at the forecast for 2021. we're going to continue to have issues around supply and demand, but some experts are saying that the supply or the pool of buyers is actually dwindling. So, and I think we're going to start to see a greater disparity between haves and have-nots. And I mean, that's been the case throughout society, but you have people who have gone through the pandemic and, continue to work and continue to flourish, but they really haven't spent any money. So you've got this pool and they've been able to accumulate money and maybe even pay down their mortgage. Then you have this other group of individuals or this other population who, may have experienced some job loss through the pandemic and have accumulated debt. So one of the things that I think we're seeing in our office is that disparity. Is you have people who are struggling. They may have to refinance some of the debt. We do a lot of debt consolidations in our office. It is a good thing because it often lowers your monthly carrying costs and saves you money on interest long term. But then you have this other group of individuals who may have aggressively paid down on their mortgage. They haven't traveled, they haven't bought the stuff that they wanted to, and now they're looking at purchasing secondary homes, possibly rentals, maybe even cottages. Moving up is also another consideration, but they may not be moving up in their community. So for example, in my community, Guelph, I'm starting to see people, they may be selling their first house that they bought for $600,000 or $650,000. This is 1,000 square foot home, okay? And they're actually moving closer to London and in more rural areas. And the further you get away from Toronto, for example, the cheaper real estate values are. So that's kind of what we're seeing, and that's some of the things that are going to be coming up in 2021. I think we're also going to see a lot more people renovating their homes, because this idea of needing a home office is becoming not just a reality but a necessity. So I'm helping a lot more individuals with accessing equity to renovate their house, to get a room, add a story, so we're going to kind of continue to see that trend. One of the things I wanted to let you know, for those of you who are watching who own rental properties, and especially student rentals, if now might be actually a good time to sell it, because that student rental, once it's vacant, may accommodate a first-time home buyer. And if it's a little bit beaten up, I feel like a lot of first-time home buyers want to put in some sweat equity in the house and make it their own. I did mention to you that we're continuing to see a net migration into Guelph from the GTA, from Milton. I just talked to a realtor, a couple of months ago, and she said that at least 50% of the offers that we were getting on properties here in Guelph, at least what she was saying, were a result of buyers who were out of the city, like more towards the GTA. And it's funny because I actually I own a couple of Airbnbs. Some of you may know that. And we've actually had guests come to Guelph and stay at our Airbnbs just to check it out, to see if they actually want to move to Guelph. So these are some of the forecasts for 2021. And if you're interested in kind of exploring some of the things that I talked about, you can always contact me. It's super easy. If you just go to my website at skipthebank.ca, there's a tab there and you can message me, or you can just message me through Facebook or Instagram. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight too is going beyond 2021. And I was thinking a little bit more about how technology is really shaping the real estate industry, and I've really noticed that. So we actually haven't met a client in our office, can you imagine, since the end of February. We're doing everything online. Our clients love it. We're setting up virtual meetings. We're doing e-signing. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the influence of technology on the real estate industry, which I think you might find interesting. So I did a little bit of, put some thought into this. If you think about it, like 100 years ago, everyone had human to human contact. So when you went to your bank 100 years ago, I can't imagine, you everything was hand-to-hand combat. Like you wrote on a piece of paper, you gave that paper to the teller, and at the end of the day, everything was balanced, and it was probably done all manually. 30 to 40 years ago, when you went into your financial institution, you still had a human being involved, but your teller was sort of processing things with a computer, or your financial planner. And now, like most financial institutions are using ATMs. They're trying to kind of get rid of tellers. And what's really interesting and is happening in the mortgage industry is do you really need to have a human involved anymore, right? I've been in this industry for 20 years. I think I've done 10,000 or maybe even more mortgages. Before I used to get a lot of questions on, what's your best rate? And it's funny because if ever I get that question, I just have people go and download my mortgage app. It's really great. If you go to my website, it's skipthebank.ca. On the top right-hand corner, you can download the app, and you can see all the financial institutions that we work with and what their current rates are. And I think the role of a mortgage broker, for those of you who are watching tonight, has become more of a boutique option. So, like if you're looking to buy another property, or your transaction might be a little bit complicated, you're self-employed, you've got some debt that you want to consolidate. So mortgage brokers in the role have really become more strategic. And as I said, I rarely get any questions on like, what's your best rate? I just send people online and make sure that they check out their rate. But I also wanted to remind you that mortgages are more than just about the best rate. You want to work with someone who knows what they're doing and kind of pull you through the process. The other thing that I think with technology that's going to be shaping things is how real estate transactions happen. There are many companies right now, and you see them with their initial public offerings, where do you really need a real estate agent to help you sell your house or help you buy another house? I certainly do think that you need to have a local expert. Because you do need a human involved, because the program may not know that, okay, there's a student rental living right beside you, and if you're planning to move your family there, you don't want to have parties there. So just as an example, so I really feel that it's super important for you to connect with a real estate professional, whether or not you're buying or selling, because you can go to a for sale by owner type of site, but you really miss that knowledge that comes with the human, and that a computer can only get you so far, right? And normally real estate is your biggest asset that you have, so you want to make sure that people are, there are hundreds of good real estate agents, and we're happy to refer you to any of those. So that's how technology is really shaping the real estate industry. And when you're looking for a professional, you want somebody who's had a long tenure, who's open and honest and trustworthy, and will kind of help you set your goals. So those are some of the things that some of my thoughts. We talked, just to kind of recap, we talked about why real estate for 2020 and why we've set record sales for the year, and why across Canada real estate has really increased in value by 10 to 15%, overall year over year in most markets. And that was because of supply and demand. You've got these baby boomers who are selling, not ready to kind of retire and sell, and you've got this sort of pent up demand where you've got millennials, or under the age of 39, buying real estate. And just so you know, like the average age of to purchase your first house is about 33 years old. So that was what happened in 2021. Sorry, 2020. So what's going to happen in 2021? Well, we're going to start to see quite a bit of disparity between haves and have not. So people who have been able to work during the pandemic really haven't gone anywhere. paid down their debts and their mortgages, and now are looking to buy like secondary homes, right? Rentals, or maybe like a secondary home in the country or a cottage. And then you have those individuals who, may have worked in manufacturing or an industry which are having a hard time making ends meet. But the good news for you guys, if you're watching tonight, is that you've got equity that you can consolidate your credit card or line of credit debt. And rates will continue to be low, so now is a really good time to look at that. And the Bank of Canada has forecasted or made a commitment to keep rates low until 2023. So some interesting things. And then just to wrap up, I talked a little bit about how technology is really shaping real estate for the future. Whereas for mortgage professionals and mortgage brokers like myself, I rarely get a question about like what's your best rate. Again, I turn people over to my website, and they can download my app. You go to skipthebank.ca and download my mortgage app, and it lists all the financial institutions that we work with and their rates. And then where I can help the individual is kind of narrowing that down, because mortgages are just more than just about an interest rate. Or if they're doing something that's a little more complicated, like buying another property, consolidating debt, wanting to leverage the equity in their house. So those are some of the things that are changing, and that are how technology is transforming our industry. And as I had mentioned, we have actually not met a client physically in my office, and I'm in my office right now, since the end of February. So we've really been able to adapt the technology and are able to meet people online. So thanks so much for joining me tonight. We're going to post this video on our Facebook feed. And if you do have any questions, you can always reach out and message me, or contact me at skipthebank.ca, and you can send me a message. Thanks so much.